Okay, we're going to go ahead and talk about solving a system with a quadratic and a line. So we're going to be graphing our quadratics, we're going to be graphing our lines. We're also going to solve algebraically, but we actually have several different ideas that can happen, or several different things. We can have two solutions, which means they'll intersect like that. Here's one solution, here's another solution. Or it could be one solution where they intersect at only one spot, or there could be no solutions where they don't intersect at all. So we're going to go ahead and use this as our idea, which means we have to remember how to graph a line and we have to remember how to graph a parabola. So when I'm graphing this line, I have y equals 1x plus 1, which means my slope is 1 over 1 and my y-intercept is 1. So I'm going to go to my y-axis to the 1 for that y-intercept, and then I'm going to use the slope, which is up 1, right 1, to graph the rest of my line. And then I'm going to graph my parabola. Now to graph my parabola, I have to do A and B. X equals negative B over 2A, which gives me 4 over 2, which is 2. And I plug it in to find my y, so y equals 2 squared minus 4 times 2 plus 5, which is equal to 4 minus 8 plus 5, which is 1. So I have a vertex of 2, 1. So 2, 1. And then I'm going to have a pattern of change of 1a, 3a, 5a, 7a. And since my a is 1, it's a 1, 3, 5, 7 pattern. So up 1 over 1, up 3, 1, 2, 3 over 1, and I get that idea of where it's crossing. Wherever it crosses is my answer, so my intersection points are 1, 2, that's the coordinate of this point, and then my other intersection right here is 4, 5. And those are my two answers. And so we're going to look at another graph. Here's our equation for our line. So y equals negative 1 over 1, x minus 1. So I start at negative 1. My slope is negative 1 over 1, so down 1, right 1. Up 1, left 1. So there's our line. And then we're going to go ahead and graph our quadratic. So x equals negative b over 2a. So 2 over 2, which is 1. And then I'm going to plug in 1. So 1 squared minus 2 times 1 minus 3 gives me negative 1 minus 3, which is negative 4. So my vertex is at 1, negative 4. My pattern of change is going to be 1, 3, 5, 7 again. So I'm going to go to 1, negative 4. And I'm going to go up 1 over 1. Up 3, 1, 2, 3 over 1. And it looks like I've found my intersections. So my answers are, let's see, the first one is negative 1, 0. And the second one is 3, nope, not 3, 2, negative 3. And those are the points where they intersect. So negative 1, 0, and then 2, negative 3 right there. We also have an algebraic way of solving. And we're going to do that by using substitution. So what we're going to do for substitution is I'm going to take what y equals for the line, I'm going to plug that in to that y spot right here. So we're going to have an x plus 2 equals the rest of this here. 2x squared minus 3x plus 4. Okay, now that we've done that substitution, we can now actually solve this equation. So we can solve the equation by moving everything to one side. So I'm going to subtract 1x, minus 2, And this is going to give me 0 equals 2x squared minus 4x plus 2. And so we have several options to us. We can factor, we can complete the square, or we can use the quadratic formula. So depending on your favorite method, you can do any of them. Now, I really like factoring. That's kind of my way because I feel like it's simpler and it's easier to do. So when factoring, the first thing you always do is you look for what's a common factor. And I notice all of these can be divided by 2. So I'm going to factor out a 2, and that's going to give me an x squared minus 2x plus 1. And then I can factor that, so I can multiply 1x squared is going to be a 1x and a 1x, or a negative 1x and a negative 1x. And it has to add to be negative 2, so it's got to be these two. And I like the box method for factoring. So I could do x squared, 1 minus 1x and minus 1x. Or if you know the shortcut, you can go ahead and say, oh, there's no number here in front of the x squared, so it must factor into, got to keep that 2 there, x minus 1 and x minus 1. And so now that we have it factored, we set each factor equal to 0. So 2, well, 2 can't equal 0. There's no x's, so we're good there. X minus 1 equals 0. And then x minus 1 equals 0, which means x equals 1, x equals 1, because I add 1 to both sides. Which really means I have one answer, x equals 1. So now that I know that one of my answers is x equals 1, I can go to my coordinate, and I can put 1 in the x spot. Which means now that I have that, I can take this value and I can plug it back into either of these equations. And it's up to me, and I choose the easier one. So for my y value, I'm going to do y equals x plus 2, and since I know x is really 1, 1 plus 2 gives me 3. And so this is our answer. So we can algebraically figure it out also. Okay, so in our next one, same idea. We're going to go ahead and since y is equal to this, we're going to put that in that y spot right here. So we're going to get negative 3x plus 4 equals 3x squared minus 3x plus 1. I'm going to move everything to the right-hand side, so I'm going to add 3x. I'm going to minus 4. So this becomes 0, 0. So I get 3x squared plus no x minus 3, which means that this really simplifies down into 3x squared minus 3. And I realize that I can actually solve this the way it is. I can add 3 to both sides, because now I have 3 equals 3x squared. I can divide by 3. So now I have 1 equals x squared. I square root both sides, and I get x can be positive 1 or negative 1. So now this gives me the x value of my 2 points. So x, y, x, y, and our x value, one of them is going to be positive 1, the other one's negative 1. And now I can use that to plug back in to either one of the equations. And I'm going to choose the line because it looks so much easier. So first I'm going to have to plug in negative 3x plus 4. I'm going to plug in the positive one. So y equals negative 3 times positive 1 plus 4. So y equals negative 3 plus 4, which gives me 1. So there's one of my answers. And then I'm going to plug in the other one, negative 1. So y equals negative 3 times negative 1 plus 4. So y equals positive 3 plus 4, which gives me 7. And those are our two answers. So the algebra method really isn't all that bad, but it is a little bit more kind of like plug and chug type of work, a lot more computation. So that's it for chapter 8. And chapter 9, we're going to start looking at exponential functions.